Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We've just went and beat Rangers in the derby. We've went down to Killie and beat them on the plastic pitch, and now we are set up. We are champions again, and we're getting ready for Trophy Day. We're here on the Celts are here for the Flagship Podcast, and as always, I'm joined by Josh. Josh, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Oh, very good to see you, Quinny. It's been a podcast it's times this season it's not looked like it's likely going to happen. That we're talking about Celtic being champions, but the team have pulled through a brilliant victory on Wednesday night at Rugby Park. Tremendous football was played, and even before that, the Glasgow Derby since the last time we've been on. So, two massive wins. The title is now Celtic's. Brendan said he'd see us back at Parkhead in May, and boy, did he see us back at Parkhead in May on Wednesday night. I was there. It was a brilliant atmosphere up at the ground, fireworks going off, jubilant scenes, and it is nothing more than what Celtic deserve.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see, and it's funny because when Brendan was out on the stage last night, the quotes that's kind of went out since then is the whole "I said I'd see you in May,"
Yeah.
and there was about 200 of you there. Now, fortunately, or by coincidence or whatever, I was actually at Celtic Park both times. Brendan Rodgers has been appointed Celtic manager, and the second time was very different to the first time. Like the first time was bag of cans effort. The sun was split in the sky. We filled the main stand, and Zombie Nation was on. Lee Griffiths brought out the title that day as well. It was party atmosphere, but at the beginning of this season, it was definitely a different atmosphere, a different flavour that was going on. And we even heard Brendan mention how he felt the first couple of months were a bit awkies, a wee bit awkward coming back in and getting it on. So I think the form we've obviously had on the games we'll chat about today, but it's been kind of precursored, I think, by the Hearts game. The Hearts game really did feel for me like the beginning of this kind of title ascendancy over the last couple of weeks. But it really does feel like almost like you can click your fingers and it's as if he's never been away now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's weird, isn't it? If you showed someone the scenes from Wednesday night of Brendan Rodgers clapping along to Don't Worry, Be Happy, if you showed someone that at Tynecastle back in 2019 when they held up the banner, never a Celt, always a fraud, I think they'd be quite shocked. So, yeah, it's like he's never been away now that the normal service has been resumed, or normal service has been continued in Scotland, Celtic champions again. But he's done a tremendous job this season with the players he's got, and I think it deserves a lot of credit. Some people doubted him at times, myself included, perhaps one or two games, but he's pulled through in the end, and it's been a massive effort from Brendan Rodgers. And like you say, it has been a bit awkward. The first 6 months, there was a lot of disruption. You look at the stuff with the Green Brigade off the pitch in terms of players who were brought in, not even playing. It took to December until Marco Tallio made his debut. Kwon didn't even make a competitive appearance. So there was a lot of chat surrounding that, and boardroom stuff as well, and results weren't the way results weren't turning out as fans wanted. So there was a lot of disruption, but it feels ever since the Motherwell win at the end of February that Celtic have really buckled down this sort of title ascendancy. I think getting over the line in Dundee at Dens Park was really big. Celtic 2-0 up, could have easily chucked away a 2-goal lead, but to hold on that game 2-1 and secure the victory, that felt from that point on that Celtic were really going to go on and do this. And listen, over the past few weeks, they've played some of the best football they have all season, and it's been tremendous to watch.
Yeah. And I think it is that football we've seen over the last, let's say 3 weeks or so that has kind of brought back the Brendan Rodgers song, amongst other
Yeah,
things, because it is more like we're playing proper football, and it's not like, that kind of awkward stage we had early season. We'll get into the matches and all that kind of stuff in a second, but it is still like not really his team, and for a long part of this season, we've still really seen a big carryover from Ange's time in terms of like playing Taylor inverted fullback and, some of the other kind of details of the squad. It took a real bit of time before Rodgers started to change them over. And I think that's one of the things that's maybe a little bit understated, because normally, like, obviously Rodgers is here for his second time. He knows the club, he's a fan and all that kind of stuff as well, right? But normally when a new manager comes in, and the last man just had a very distinct style, there's a real, I need to coach the players into playing my way. And then there's a bit of a, speed bumps, results don't go their way. And it's like, oh, once the players get it, they'll get it kind of thing. But I do think the way he kind of massaged this kind of transition of style of play from, just to call it Ange ball, from that to, what we recognise as Brendan Rodgers football, I think it's been quite delicately handled. And, it has been difficult for him to do that with the players at his disposal. Like, we don't need to go through the first half of the season in terms of Lagerby LKs and, all these other moving parts that disrupt, consistency and all the rest of it. But I think it's quite clear, especially looking over the last. You've mentioned the Motherwell game and the Dundee game, but like Adam Ida has probably been. We can talk about Matt O'Reilly. We will talk about Matt O'Reilly as well, but it does feel like Adam Ida has been a real catalyst for like the change of style.
Mhm.
There's been a
Yeah.
big change, but the little evolution into
Mhm.
Rodgers ball.
Yeah, I would just say I think he's given the players, the fans, a real psychological boost. And obviously, he gives you a totally different dynamic up front. O was sort of giving you it, but he's not fully developed in a way that he does. He does not fully develop, but he's much more along the line than what O is, I feel. And that's just simply because we've spoken about it before. You've spoken about it, Quinn. He has that low end Premier League experience that O just doesn't have from playing in South Korea when he was younger. So Ida, certainly, he's come in, he's made a massive impact. And to the way Celtic play, it's huge. You look at what he was doing just on Wednesday night, for example, dropping deep, carrying the ball. You look at the first goal, he gets the ball, shoves off his man. There's no foul there. It's just great strength from him in the midfield. Turns him, plays a ball out wide, and carries on his run to finish it off in the 6 yard box like a great number 9 should do. It's brilliant. My dad's comparing him to Chris Sutton already, and that is saying something. So Adam Ida has been massive for Celtic in this second half of the season, really pushing on and being a catalyst for this run of form that has seen the team go on to win the title. So we can chat obviously later on about whether we sign him permanently. I think from yourself, Quinn, it'll be a resounding yes. But I've been really impressed by him, and just in terms of the play style and stuff like that, I think it is very hard to make that transition seamless when you don't have consistency in the starting lineup. Like you said, guys like Lagerbielke coming in and out of the team, whether it be Mike Nawrocki, Luis Palma was getting a run of games. Guys like Mikey Johnson, David Turnbull were kicking about, so it was very difficult. And your key players were injured as well. Rio Hatate, Cameron Carter-Vickers has spent spells on the sidelines. Around about New Year, Greg Taylor was out of the team and you were relying on Bernabei for some crucial games. Alistair Johnston's been out. It's been a really tough campaign for Celtic, but guys who've stayed fit, like your Matt O'Reillys, your Liam Scales, Joe Hart's, Kyogo to a certain extent, Dyson, well, maybe not Dyson Minder, but these guys who have remained fit throughout the season have been massive contributors to this success and deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there. And I'm just kind of like, again, thinking about the consistency, the style of play and whatever. I'm looking back at that Motherwell game. Because again, on the podcast for the last couple of months, we've been talking about the form that we're kind of holding Ange and everyone else to in terms of we need to be able to get really consistent at scoring lots of goals, to be able to lift the level and then start to dream about what we can do next season. And since the Motherwell game, we've only failed to score 3 goals or more twice, which is pretty impressive over the amount of games. I'll just put this on screen for anyone who wants to see it. But the style of play has really kicked on another
Even
level. So we've got
yeah,
3-1 here and then onwards.
I think the style of play as well, that in terms of it being kicked on, really shows how your style of play and your performances contribute to your results. Because since that Mallow game, we've played 12 times, lost once, and drew once. And you lose a game at Tynecastle, which I think is just an anomaly because of decisions in that game. And then Ibrox, it's tough anyway, and it was a last minute equaliser. So since that Mallow game, Celtic have well and truly kicked on and went on a run that you need to go on to win titles.
Yeah, big time. And I just seen as we face on here, Nicholas Coons obviously had a bit of an impact, a bit of a role to play in this portion of the season. Maybe not been quite as decisive with goals and assists as you'd maybe think for a highly heralded summer January signing or whatever. But I do think, like you mentioned it there, signing Adam Ida, I think like it makes absolute sense. I've got no problem. I said after the Rangers game that he got his goals in, I was like, that's it for me. Like I'm happy for him to be signed. But I am not at any costs yet. I'm not quite there. Like, I do think that, like our transfer kitty, we don't know how big it's going to be. And we know how precious the board are with spending money. And the reported figures we've got from the press is circa, £6 million or something like that. There's sources close to the website that can confirm that. That's pretty much the going rate for the deal he's on now. And I just worry you spend £6 million on Ida, and then we get the rest of the signings in the summer are back into the price category of what we had last summer.
That's the issue, isn't it? And it's just going to be the question whether it's going to be, is it going to be 6 million on every player and you're going to bring in about 3 or 4 quality guys at that price? Or is it going to be a marquee 6 million signing like Adam Ida and then it's a left back at 2 million that's going to play second fiddle to Taylor. You don't know. Um, in my opinion, if Celtic are going to sign Adamida and there is the guarantee that there's going to be money elsewhere spent and spread around the squad well and invested in quality, then 100% sign Adamida. But if you've not got a decent transfer kitty, 6 million for him, is it a price we should be paying? I'm not entirely sure. But they have the money available in the bank, especially after this newly formatted Champions League qualification and the extra money that's going to bring us a 33% increase in TV money that Celtic are going to get from this. And you've also got 2 extra games, potentially 4 extra games if you finish in the top 24, which is gate receipts and more prize money if you win or draw the game. So there is no excuse, I feel, for spending the money this summer, especially after the mistakes that have been in terms of recruitment last year. And bringing in Adamida would certainly kickstart the window because, and for me, the criteria that he has, like in terms of what you're looking for a signing, he has a lot. He knows the club already. He knows what the club means. He's proven, as we've seen, 10 goals and, or what is it, 8 goals and 2 assists and something like 10 league games, averaging a goal contribution every 73 minutes, I think it is. He scores in big games, like you said, scored at Ibrox, but I do feel he still has a wee bit of development in his game. I look at the Aberdeen semi-final, perhaps could have been a bit better that day. Also, the derby on Saturday could have finished his chances. But for a 23-year-old, he still has it. You don't expect him to do everything perfect. He still has a lot of room to develop. And I think at Celtic, under the management of Brendan Rodgers, he's only going to do that. So 100% I would sign him. I seen this, I think, going about on Twitter the other day that when Celtic signed Dodson Edward, when he was on loan from PSG, during that whole season he scored 11 goals. Albeit he was 19 years old and he does 23, so 4 years older. But Edward scored 11 goals, and in the second half of this season since signing, Ida has 8 goals. So, I mean, you can't really compare them, but it shows you the impact he's had, in my opinion. And if the money's there and we know that he's not going to be the only one that's brought in for that price, yes, then 100% I would sign him. But Norwich just sacked their manager, David Wagner, after they get pumped out of the playoffs last night. So whoever the new manager, he might want to look at Ida, I'm not sure. But I think Ida's allegiance is certainly lying in Glasgow, given the comments he's made in the press. I think he's saying he was over the moon to be here after winning the league at Rugby Park. So I think we know where he wants to be next season as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more pictures of him pointing at his tattoo, aren't we?
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, no, with Norwich crashing out the playoffs, I do think, like, because we know the way the system works in England with parachute payments and whatever, like, they are incentivized Celtic
Yeah,
style to sell people, to try and
yeah,
keep the books
yeah.
afloat and keep the ledger from going red, as it were. So I would hope we can negotiate them down, or maybe try and like stagger payments out a little bit or whatever. I don't know, but I just feel that it's maybe just that every summer, Josh, I feel I feel exactly what you just said, where there's no excuses now. We should be spending the
Yeah,
money. But really now, like you said,
yeah,
guaranteed 4 home games at the Champions League, maybe a 5th one. You're not going to play the same opponent twice. So we're going to have 10 different opponents to go up against, home or away. It's all going to be a bit of a hodgepodge. And the one thing I've always given Peter Lawwell some latitude with, or some
leeway.
leeway with, is the fact that he is like on all these boards and all these reformatting of European football. And if he's at the table, then he's going to make sure clubs like us are looked after, or us in particular, hopefully, depending on how it stages out. And it feels like this version of the Champions League gets not necessarily gets fingerprints all over it, because there's been other factors involved in it, certainly. But, when they're, again, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, so sorry, it is a podcast, so that's kind of part of the game with this one, right? But as I chat about this, I just remember Ronnie Dyla being manager and everyone thinking like, oh, we're not spending money. We're just, Rangers only here, so we're just going to cruise the league, and it's tin pot this and it's biscuit tin that. And I was never really too bothered about that, because I always thought, well, they're just going to bank up money. And then when Rangers come back, we just turn into a Goliath and we just go and spend mad. That's not really happened yet, for a variety of reasons that maybe we could talk about another day. I don't think we'll have time today to go through the histrionics of it all. But it really does feel now like there is zero excuse. They've got a manager they're in love with. We've got a squad that is probably the most valuable squad we've had since that Dyla team. And that might raise a few eyebrows, but that Dyla team, we sold all of them for buckets, man.
Yeah.
Like, we were chatting on the Sorry Our CSC last night on the channel. Oh no, it wasn't that. It was somewhere else, but I don't know. I think I might have been listening to another fan media. I can't remember. But if you look at some of the players that have left over the last 5 or 6 years, like Frimpong, Van Dijk, Ayer, Tierney, like that's a Premier League defense right there.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Elite European level. And then there's other guys in midfield who've maybe had their moment in the sun and not really kicked on anymore. And then in attack, guys like Dembele, Edward, and one or
Jota.
two others. Jota, of course. Yeah, well, he's in Saudi, so it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to say too much, but I'm with you. So, like, yeah, I really do feel that if he does the 6 million, just the Kickstarter, just to get us up and running, and
Yeah.
then we spend something similar on a goalkeeper, we spend something similar on a European level left back to push Taylor and maybe replace Taylor eventually, as well as maybe fill some gaps in the squad, then bring it on. Sign either the now, no problem at all. But if we are still in this kind of little biscuit tin mode sometimes, where it's like, right, we'll buy one guy, maybe two at that price, and then everyone else is a project or a punt or whatever it might be, then I'm not going to rush into spending that money on either, because you could get in theory, you could get somebody similar, maybe a couple of mil cheaper, and then that could maybe help you reinforce something else that's a bit more important, because Kyogo still is the main striker. Ida, as we just seen there with his form, is predominantly coming off the bench and making an impact, of course. And then against Kilmarnock and his other starts, Rodgers is playing the fixture by having him as the striker rather than Kyogo. So I think he knows his role, and I think we know his role. But again, the Edward reference that I love as well, because I do feel that we kind of hid Edward. See, after he rinsed Rangers, like he done him
Yeah,
really, really good for us.
he didn't really play, did he?
And then it felt like we hid him. We didn't play him as much so that PSG didn't get wide and try and renegotiate or sell him to someone else or whatever. So yeah, like I'm all about that, but it's at the right price, and it's as long as the transfer kitty isn't, diminished greatly by it, because we were speaking on the pod a few months ago, and we were looking at home, and we were looking at I can't remember who the third one was, but there was like three of them. And then you look at Adamida, he's kind of like a few years on. You
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
Paulo Bernardo, he's kind of like home
yeah,
a few years on. And we've still got players at the club, is my point, that are kind of developing
yeah.
and all the rest of it. So I don't know if we're totally writing off and home and some of these other guys, certainly, but I'm firmly in the sign it up camp, but I'm not quite at any cost.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's the wise statement to make. You don't want to spend all your budget on a backup striker, or a striker who's competing with, when you've got someone like Kyogo there, when you've got glaring positions in the squad that are of higher priority: goalkeeper, left back, probably centre back, because the manager doesn't seem to fancy the likes of Lagerbielke and Nawrocki. So yeah, I would agree with you. Sign Ida, and if the budget is going to be spread wisely and money is going to be spent, then yes, sign him for £6 million.
Yeah, I'm all about that. And I think this is another little thread that I'd like to pull on with you just now. But again, something we'd referenced earlier in the season, and I think we're really going to see it this summer. But when we are buying all these guys in the summer, in January, last year, whatever, that are like a couple of million each, and they're all prospects, project signings, or whatever, it was a bit of overkill, and it was very frustrating that none of them can affect the first team. But what it does help you to do is like build up stock. It does help you to build up players that you can like trade against in the market and whatever. And we're starting to see links already for the likes of Haksabanovic. We also know the success Mickey Johnson's had on loan. Lagerbielke could have been loaned or sold in January, and we kiboshed that just for a bit of an insurance policy. Maybe that will get activated again. But we maybe do have the money to pay for Adamida by selling two or three
Yes,
guys
yeah,
already.
definitely. The reported fee for Haksabanovic was €2.5 million Celtic want from him, I want to say. So I'm not sure what that translates to in pounds, but I assume it's around about the 2 million mark. It is
Yeah.
a loss on what Celtic signed Haksabanovic for, but it's still money coming into the club. And say you get £1.5 million for Haksabanovic, he does 6 million. Realistically, you're going to get 4.5 or thereabouts for Mikey Johnson, depending on who wants him, and then that covers the Adamida fee. Don't know, but then depending on who the Norwich manager is, you might like the look of Mikey Johnson if he's seen him in the Championship this season, and perhaps a swap deal can be done there. Don't know, it's for two Irish boys, but or maybe Mikey Johnson gets that chance in pre-season yet again, and the cycle continues, and he goes out on loan again next January. But hopefully that cycle doesn't go on any longer.
Well, I was going to say that
Is he an
you know,
option?
is he someone
Yeah.
that we actually just bring back? Does Rogers go, "I've got you ready now, Mikey, come and play with us"?
But I think the result tonight for West Brom should be big because they could get into the playoff final. So if they get into that and Mikey Johnson gets to the Premier League, runs West Brom.
Yeah. I could get a couple of mil for them, I suppose. Yeah, it's definitely a good way of going about it. But yeah, Adam Ida, resounding success. I put a wee tweet out yesterday saying, I'm very glad we didn't pay the ransom for Miofsky because, like, I'm sure he'd have done just as good for us, really, in all honesty, right? But I just, yeah, ransom is definitely what I felt it was. They were trying to get us with, and I thought getting this guy on loan is definitely the more shrewd option. And I'm glad it's kind of paid off for the club because there has been some moves that haven't worked out. And it gives you more confidence that, like, at least Rogers had his fingerprints on this one and it worked out. So if Rogers now has been in with the team for a year, he's been in with the transfer department for 9 months or whatever, kicking their ass for all these substandard signings and changing personnel and hiring new people, it does give you confidence that the next batch will be of that caliber. They'll be able to actually influence the team. And because it's not just Ida, like, we're talking about the form that we've been on over the last like month or two, or maybe back to February if you want to go back to the Motherwell game onwards. And Ida, like, hasn't always started or whatever, but like one of the great things about, having a good squad in football is that it just pushes the level up for everyone, And Adam Ida, we can give a lot of obvious credit to that for maybe a bit of an increase in Kyogo's game. We've seen Daisen Maeda increase his performance, maybe for other reasons, just becoming a bit more loved by the fan base. But I definitely put James Forrest at the top of that list of a guy holding standards, pushing the boat out. And, when you look at the main problem we've had this season, it's been wing. It's been Yang, it's been Palmer, it's been Johnson, it's been Tillio, it's been all these guys until Jimmy's been ready to cook and he's been on the scene. So, like, the value of the squad can't be diminished. I don't think it's not just like we've got one superstar, which we kind of do. We've maybe got a few of them in the making, but we've definitely got one at the moment, which we'll probably come on to. But I do think that, like, the message from Rogers, where it's like it's a team thing, got to believe you can't lose faith in the process and the team and all that is definitely what has really helped the overall team.
Yeah, definitely. The squad depth has really shone through. Guys like James Forrest has been waiting in the wings all season, and fair play to him because he said there were a few options for him to leave in January, and he didn't even start getting a match day squads again to about February, March time. But when the crunch time has came, Forrest has stepped up for Celtic, and special congratulations to him because if he's listening, I don't know if he is. I hope so. If you're listening, James, he's now the second most decorated Celtic player in Celtic history with 23 trophies alongside Billy McNeil, the European Cup winning captain. And he's only 3 trophies away from becoming the most decorated Celtic player of all time and overtaking Bobby Lennox, who's on 25 trophies. So fair play to James Forrest and his contributions. Obviously, scoring on Wednesday night, getting that double up at Dens Park was crucial. And even against Rangers as well at the weekend, he was really good, really good. I felt he tore Borna Barisic to shreds at times. For a 32-year-old up against a Croatian international fullback, he did really, really well. So, in brackets, Croatian international fullback. He did really well. So, fair play to James over these past couple of weeks. He's been massive for Celtic.
Absolutely huge. And yeah, like I kind of alluded to there, we do have a superstar on our books. We've kind of been, pardon the expression, but blowing his trumpet most of the season. And certainly over the last couple of weeks, like not just the performances, but goals, assists, everything is going through him. Everything is raining in. And he scooped up all the awards at Celtic, obviously, Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, which is maybe a bit tongue-in-cheek at this point, amongst other Players Player of the Year, that kind of stuff. But absolutely snubbed by, the SFA, by the Football Writers Association and, all these other people. Matt O'Reilly is the real deal, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an unbelievable talent. Signed from MK Dons for 1.5 million, and that bit of business just looks even better as the weeks go by. Every time you see Matt O'Reilly play, he is excellent. He's an unbelievable talent. 18 goals and 18 assists this season in all competitions is tremendous. 36 goal contributions. People talk about he's had the wee drop off in form. It only lasted a couple of weeks, in my opinion. After that, he was really back to his best, and that's what it has been for the majority of the season. He's really started to step up in big games now for Celtic, and that's perhaps something he was guilty of doing last season, is ghosting in the big games, I would say, I would argue. But this campaign, you look at the Scottish Cup semi-final, comes up with the goal in extra time to put Celtic ahead and scores a penalty in the shootout. Look at Ibrox, scores a Panenka. Look at Celtic Park on Saturday, scores the opening goal of the game, albeit he missed a penalty. He got man of the match. Brilliant. Scored some other crucial goals throughout the season. Motherwell at the beginning of the campaign, scoring that 97th minute winner. He has been a tremendous player for Celtic this campaign, in my opinion. The best player in Scotland, best football player in Scotland. Lauren Shankland's a goal scorer. Scored 30 goals. Fair play to him. Really good player. He's got 30 goals and 6 assists. O'Reilly has 18 goals and 18 assists. So they've got the same amount of goal contributions in all competitions this season. But as a football player, as a whole, I feel Matt O'Reilly is much better. You wouldn't be able to see Lawrence Shankland linking the play like O'Reilly does, or making those runs from deep, being imposing in the midfield, playing key passes like the one he made the other night to set up Adamida for the opening goal. So all round, he is excellent. And listen, I don't know what happens to him. I don't know what's going to happen to him in the future of this summer transfer window. There is going to be undoubted interest given his performances, and maybe Celtic should do what they've done with Odsonne Edouard and just lock him up for these next couple of games. But yeah, he's been unreal. And listen, it's not something you didn't expect, to be fair, because last season he showed the promise. He showed the promise initially when he signed under Ange Postecoglou, playing even in that deeper role at times in Callum McGregor's absence. He'd done really, really well. So testament to Matt. He's an excellent player, and hopefully we have more than 2 games left of him in a Celtic jersey.
Yeah, I'm quite hopeful of it. It's not that long ago he
Yeah,
did sign a new deal, number
yeah,
one. And like with the Champions League reformat that we've already discussed, like you've got to think, like, especially now looking back on the year, like Rodgers has definitely been rubber stamping all these contract extensions that we've had, all the way through the squad, Vickers, Scales, O'Reilly, Hatate, Kyogo, Maeda, all
yeah,
these guys get mad extensions this year. McGregor as well. You've got to think every one of them is like at least to secure the next year, especially for the likes of O'Reilly and maybe some of the ones that could be sold. Because this, I kind of referenced it earlier, but I do think this is Celtic's time in the sun, this European revamp, because the old format Champions League, like, yeah, we could punch, we could maybe get into third more often than not. We could sneak into second once in a while, but it wasn't really conducive to a team like us to actually say, yeah, let's have a real shot at it. But with the way it's been reformatted now, once you get, yeah, you've got your 4 games home and away. Like you said, Josh, if you don't finish in the bottom 12 or whatever, you get another round of games. And then
yeah.
after that, you're into the quarterfinals, you
Last
know?
16 is. Yeah.
Oh, last 16, I beg your
Yeah,
pardon.
last
Yeah.
16, but it's still Celtic are more than capable of finishing in the top 24. And if they do that, they're a tie away from the last 16 of the Champions League. Dizzy heights for us Celtic fans that we haven't really experienced in Europe since, I would say, the days of Neil Lennon in his first spell in charge. Even though I had that run in the Europa League, got papped out the last 32 off Copenhagen. So Europe should be a really high priority. It should always be a
Yeah.
high priority for Celtic, just even given the negativity that there's been surrounding it. The Feyenoord win at the end of the last campaign was the first Champions League victory at home in over a decade, which is stark, definitely, and 100%. It should not be it should not take another decade for Celtic to win at home in the Champions League, and I don't think it will. But like say, securing this squad going forward, a lot of the issues this season, and the manager has touched on it as well, is losing key players. Carl Starfelt and Jota were massive for Celtic over the past 2 years before this season. And losing just 2 of those guys, who a lot of people didn't like Starfelt for his mistakes, but it just shows how critical he was to the team when he was playing. Didn't lose a league game with Carter Vickers, and Jota speaks for himself. But quite interesting actually, Jota got 11 goals, 11 assists in the league last season, and I think O'Reilly's surpassed that this campaign. So that shows you how well he's playing. But you lose those 2 key guys. That is why it is so crucial Celtic keep their key players this summer. Your Matt O'Reillys, your Carter Vickers, because if you keep them and you have this squad together for another year, at least under Brendan Rodgers' management, and you add strength to it this summer, then you're right, Quinny, you can make a mark in Europe. But is that going to be the case if a team like Inter Milan comes in for Matt O'Reilly and bids what, 20 25, 30 million. I mean, I don't think Inter would probably be the team to do that, but if someone did, then it is a very hard proposition for the club to turn down. I don't think the manager wants to let him go, and O'Reilly seems pretty settled for me. He doesn't not showing really any signs that he wants out, and I think he never has as a Celtic player. But it would just be interesting because the new European format certainly looks like it could benefit Celtic.
Yeah, agreed. And I think as well, like for O'Reilly, like from what we've heard of him, his press conferences and whatever, like number one, I don't think he wants to leave Celtic and have to prove himself again,
Yeah,
because we've seen not just with Celtic players, but with players that aren't in the top 5 divisions when they do move to a top 10, top 20 club, they don't walk into the starting 11 most of the time, unless they're like a real, like O'Reilly could be like a real prodigy kind of effort. I don't think he wants to. Like, if you look at Ayer, if you look at Edward, if you look at half of these
yeah,
guys, like they need to adapt, they need to level up, they need to get their way into the team. And I don't think he wants to leave us and do any of that. I think he wants to leave us and continue to be who he is. And
yeah,
probably the best way for him to achieve that is to be the man in a Champions League group stage. And then whoever's coming in for him, he's saying, like, I'm not developing, I'm still developing, but like, I'm not coming to your team to learn how to pass and shoot and stuff. I'm
yeah.
coming to your team to run the midfield, whoever it might be, So I do think it would have to be a Champions League club. I don't think
Mm,
like Man United is the one that we've kind of thrown out a few times because they're a big name and they normally spend the money and all that. But even a Man United or whatever in the Europa League or these Conference League, whatever it is they're bloody qualifying for, I don't think that's the sort of move that.
yeah, I think even
Um,
yeah, just using United as an example, I don't even think that would interest O'Reilly. See the amount of players that have gone there and like world class players, Rafael Varane, for example, that have just gone there and not succeeded. I don't think that'd be a good move. But like you say, the club needs to be the right fit for him, and it's not just like a Crystal Palace or a Brentford, like those guys Edward and I have went to. It needs to be a high end team.
yeah, completely. So yeah, I'm very hopeful that we hold on to him, and I think like see what you say about the bid. I think there's undoubtedly big money bids like that could be like you pick up the phone and accept it, if that makes sense. But I think the key to this is Celtic's valuation on the player. We had
Yeah,
an interesting point definitely on the live stream last night. We're giving away tickets to Trophy Day. Thanks to everyone again that joined in for the live show. And if you missed it, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss it next time. But like when you see other teams selling a high prospect player, like if you think about like a bottom end Premier League team that's
mhm,
like fighting against relegation, they don't want to sell their guy for any less than the equivalent to Premier League money next season because they're thinking, oh, if we sell this guy, we get relegated, then we're screwed, and so on and so forth. You can extrapolate that out into different clubs and different situations. And for
yeah,
us, it's like Matt O'Reilly's a Champions League money. Like, like next year, if we win the league again, which we also expect we do, there's qualifiers to happen and all the rest of it. So, like, we kind of be valuing Matt O'Reilly at Tierney levels, at Jota levels. Like, the asking price for him has to be like 45 mil. And some Celtic fans, their heads might come out their head a wee bit when you say that. But that is, especially if it's England that come calling,
mhm.
that is the market for like high level prospects,
Yeah,
like that.
especially homegrown as well. In England, they counts a homegrown player. That adds an extra couple of million onto the fee.
Yeah.
I almost a bit choked in my water when you said 45 million, to be fair, but I think when you consider it, it is a decent valuation for a player like Matt O'Reilly. The record is 25 for KT,
Yep.
um, but even in the region of 35 to 45, I think it's if he was doing this in the Premier League for someone like Palace,
If he was doing this at Sporting Lisbon, it would be 60
yeah,
million.
100, it
If
would
he's
be,
doing this at Ajax, it's
yeah,
50 million, 100 million,
100%,
So it's the numbers
exactly,
that make the difference. 18 goals, 18 assists is that level of the Benfica guy that goes for 100 million or
yeah,
whatever. That's the
yeah,
levels he's getting to.
yeah,
He just needs to prove it in a Champions League setting now. That's the
yeah,
step he's at.
yeah,
And then that's when you go, right, well, yeah, Enzo Fernandez, where did he go from? I know he won a World Cup and stuff, but that's when you put yourself in that realm of that's the level of guy we've got now. It's not like Edward, who might be okay, or it's Tierney, who we love and he should be good and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
It's a different dynamic altogether. Whether you get that sort of fee all up front or whatever is another matter. Of course,
mhm,
you need to see who's interested and what their budgets are and all the rest of it. But it's the asking price is kind of what I'm saying here is the
yeah,
key for it
yeah,
because we will get big money offers, but if Celtic are saying we want 45 and they get 5 offers of 28, then they're probably not going to accept it because they're wanting the 48. But if they say it's
yeah,
23 and then you get 10 bids of 23, he's gone. You know,
yeah.
so I think it's the valuation is we hope we value him properly. I guess at this
Yeah.
stage is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's all depends on Celtic's value of the player. I don't know what they'll ask for him, what they want for him, but I think the fees we've mentioned are but probably possible, like you say, depending on the club that comes from, and hopefully it's a team that spends lucrative money on players and doesn't really care about their finances. So potentially, hopefully, someone like that comes in for him, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, someone reckless with their money. It just screams
Yeah,
Chelsea, doesn't
yeah,
it?
Chelsea. Yep, they'll sell Cole Palmer, and O'Reilly can replace Cole Palmer and be the main man. There you go.
In all seriousness, but just before we move away from that, really, like
Mhm.
I could see him firmly do like so. Obviously, he's an attacking midfielder for us, right? But if he was to go to the Premier League, like any of the top kind of Champions League level clubs, like I think people would look at him as like a Rodri figure in terms of like
Mhm.
his stature and how he looks after the ball, his eye for a
Yeah,
pass, and like
yeah,
for us, he's played all positions of midfield. You know, he's not just an attacking guy that can sense danger and cover
yeah.
spaces and whatever. So, and again, like that profile of midfielder, big, strong, imposing, can shoot, can pass to the level that we've seen.
Mhm.
There's not many of those guys around that aren't already at top 10, top 20
Yeah,
clubs.
yeah.
So
The Euros is going to be big for him as well with Denmark if he goes and if he plays and if he impresses, then that puts the price up extra and gets more people interested in him. So he's just playing against England as well. If he gets a goal against England and impresses elsewhere in the group, I think who else in that group? Serbia, and I want to say some other Diddy team. I'm not sure, but he could do well there, and that could even further spike the interest.
yeah, big time. So yeah, to kind of so we've got a point here. Utter dominance now for Celtic. We've won 12 out the last 13 titles, and I've kind of seen that banded around on social media, and it gave me a bit of a flashback to talking to Rangers supporting friends I've got when it was like Rodgers' last time here,
Yeah,
and I remember thinking and feeling back then before all this stuff happened, like if we did do the 10, we would probably do 14 or something like that
yeah,
because of the way we've been going, and minus the fly in the ointment, big bloody flying ointment is at this point. But that's the trajectory we're on. Like we are in a real unassailable position here. And like I know it's the whole like, oh, you want a title race and you want this and you want that, which is all fair and good, right? But this is the expectation for the level of dominance that we should have had with them not being around for a few years and then with the financial muscle that we've got. So the dominance at Celtic now, it is like probably surely one of the most successful periods in the club's career, minus maybe a bit of European action to just push it over the top. But
yeah.
what a fantastic decade to be a Celtic fan overall.
100%. It's unprecedented success, and I think a lot of supporters like myself who were born into this are very, very fortunate to have. I think there's a fact that went around that since he was 10 years old, Matt O'Reilly's seen Rangers win one league title, and he's 23 years old now. That is mental. Celtic have been the dominant force in Scottish football over the past over a decade, even in their coming really close now to matching Rangers trophy haul. Celtic are one away from equalling it now, and well, that's in league titles and then trophies overall. I think Celtic are what, 3 away from it, 4 away from it,
Right.
something stupid like that. So, listen, dominant force in Scottish football over the past 10, 20 years. And when Martin O'Neill came in, it was really a turning point for the club. Won a treble in his first year. And though he left, Gordon Strachan continued it on, done really well with the players he had, winning 3 titles in a row back to back, bringing in guys like Jan Venegura Hesselink, who went on to succeed for the club, and even doing really well with players like Darren Adi or Stephen McManus of the world. So did really well. And then Neil Lennon comes in, continues it on. Brendan Rodgers, Ronnie Dyler done his stint for 2 years. He he got the job done, Dyler, winning 2 league titles, robbed of a treble because of a Josh Meeking's handball against Inverness in a Scottish Cup semi-final. Um, then Brendan comes in. We know what he did. Then Lennon comes back, albeit the COVID season. I think that's an anomaly. And you look at Postecoglou, really brought the supporters close to the players and the team and brought this real synergy within the club that I don't think has been matched over the past 10, 20 years. I think that's the time where players, fans, manager have all been together as one the most over this period of success. And then obviously Rodgers has come back and the status quo's continued. He knows how to win league titles. He knows how to beat Rangers. He's lost 1 in 17 derbies, which is incredible. And he's just box office Brendan. as some supporters say. So yeah, it's really been a tremendous period for Celtic these past 10, 12 years, winning league titles, winning trebles, cups, league cups. And I think the only thing that's really not been seen in this past decade or so is European progression, and that should be a priority.
Yeah, definitely think that's the next door to kick down and get some headway for. And like again, like thinking back to Rodgers' last time, like we weren't great at the Champions League, but we did draw with Pep's Man City. You know, we did actually do
Yeah,
pretty not too bad against them. And I forget the third team in the group, but Gladbach was a bit of a tough one. Just a shaky kind of Bundesliga team that just loved to attack and all that. So like, there's definitely like green shoots from last time he was here, where you think, yeah, well, they're with this format now. You know, we're going to play
yeah,
because it's 4 games, so you play like 2 teams in each pot. So we're going to get two
yeah,
shots at the pot below us. We'll get teams in our pot as well, which normally didn't happen. And then
yeah,
you've also got the elite guys that you cross your fingers and hope you can make some memories rather than try and burn the memories out afterwards,
yeah,
um, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm loving it, and like me, I'm 36 at this point. So
mhm,
I remember I remember a wee bit of the pre good days, as it were. But even since the millennium, see when you look at the leagues that they've won, it's like helicopter Sunday, and it's like 1 point here and it's 1 point there. So like really over the last 24, really since the millennium, Martin O'Neill onwards, or Wim Janssen onwards, really like that has been Celtic. It's been Celtic,
yeah,
Celtic, Celtic, and then it's been the kind of disruption with maybe an Alex McLeish team or a Walter Smith team or something here or there, where they just about squeak it through the dark arts and just about get themselves over the line, sort of thing. So it's brilliant, looking at all the titles and all the results that have been coming in. And again, this is something I'll probably say is my last kind of thought on this. But like I remember when we are talking about Brendan coming back, and by all accounts, like if he didn't leave the way he left, like the last time, like what he achieved first time around, like is almost statue worthy,
yeah,
really. Treb,
100%. Yeah,
treble trebles. If he did stay, quadruple treble, all to his name, like it's obscene.
yeah,
So if he's back in now, and again, this is maybe what I'll throw back to you on, right? We're on
mhm,
3 in a row the now, right?
mhm.
Brendan is
Oh, I've heard the
Brendan is
suggestions already, man. I've heard the suggestions already.
Well, let's think about it, right? He's got all these players on a 5-year contracts, right? So
Yeah,
let's say you average that out as a 3-year squad, right? We're building a
mm,
squad for the next 3 years. That gets us to 6, right? If you're
mm.
Brendan Rodgers, see, once you get to that point, he can't leave, can he?
He can, and as Mick McCarthy would say, it can. You know what I mean? So we've seen it
Yeah, yeah.
before. He's done it before. He went away to Leicester when he was on the cusp of a treble with Celtic. He'd won the League Cup already. Celtic were just ahead in the league, and we were in the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup, and he left. So he's promised they'll be here for 3 years, which is 2 years more after this season. And if he continues to success, I think he signs a new contract. You look at in life in Glasgow, I think Rodgers is settled now. He's done his stints in England. He's won an FA Cup there. He took Liverpool as far as he could, ran really close to winning the title there. And with Celtic, I think he still has ambitions to progress in Europe and build a squad that can win more trebles and really go further assert this unprecedented dominance that the club has. And listen, I've seen the suggestions. When do we start singing "Here We Go" 10 in a row again? Uh, I would never get ahead of myself in that. And I don't think it's a realistic ambition now, but as the years go on, however the finances go, maybe, but don't know.
Yeah. So I think like if we get the European dominance, I don't know. I just hope that, yeah, it maybe just because again, like now it's kind of walking into like the way European football is it's all about Champions League, really. Like you've got the Premier League, obviously, is the Super League that is the unspoken Super League at the moment. But if you're like, it does center around being involved in the Champions League. That's the highest level, really,
Yeah,
that you can expect a manager to aspire to. So if he's getting that here, he's the king of the town again, and he's got the full club at his disposal. Alex Ferguson style, as it's kind of
yeah,
known. Like
that's what I've seen. I was in the pub a couple of weeks ago, and someone suggested that I think Rogers will do an Alex Ferguson and stay here for a long time. But I don't know. If imagine a big job comes up in England and he's successing with Celtic in Europe, doing very well in the league, winning trebles. Is he going to take a Chelsea job? if it comes up, if the Liverpool job comes up again, does he take it if he's doing really well with Celtic? I don't know. Does he?
Yeah. We won't explore that anymore because
Yeah,
it is party time. We've just wiped the floor with Kilmarnock, who, to quote Alistair Johnson, have had our number this season. We started
yeah,
the season off with a real bang against Kilmarnock, not a good
yeah,
bang, certainly, so to turn them into looking like Livingston, I think is a good kind of sign of progress
yeah,
across the season.
yeah,
And now we
yeah,
come into Trophy Day, we're at home at St Mirren, and this is a team that over the years have been quite tricky, but this season we've dealt with quite handily.
yeah. St Mirren have been a decent side over the past couple of years. They're going to Europe, so fair play. But I think Trophy Day Celtic historically do really well. I remember a game back in 2012 where Gary Hooper scored 5 goals in Trophy Day for Celtic to win 5-0. And last year, Celtic beat Aberdeen 6-0, I want to say. And the season
Yep.
before that, they beat Motherwell 6-0. So if they could keep up with that trend this weekend, that would be lovely. But like you say, they made Kilmarnock look like an amateur team at the weekend. It was a really, midweek, sorry. Really good performance. One of the best of the season. And just from the off, 5 minutes in, you score the goal. From then on in, you could tell it was going to be a doing. Then 2-0 up within 10 minutes. Forrest gets a third and really kicked on in the second half. So it would have been easy for the players just to sit in and maybe let Kilmarnock get a goal, but they didn't. They ploughed on. Matt O'Reilly got 2 goals and arguably could have been more in Celtic's favour. So that was really good. And I think Brendan Rodgers said to Cal McGregor after the game, you'd think Celtic season had just started the way they were playing in Wednesday night. And it was really pleasing to see. And it just shows, like you say, the progression this team has made from losing to Kilmarnock twice, once in August in the Cup and then once in December in the league, to having guys like Nat Phillips, Mikey Johnson, David Turnbull playing those games. And the players that are there now, Adam Ida scoring, Dyson Maeda on form, Matt Riley tremendous again. So I think I was one of Matt Riley's best performances in a Celtic shirt on Wednesday night. So yeah, it was really pleasing to see. Now St Mirren, the game means nothing, doesn't it? But what I think is going to be most interesting about this one is the team selection and who gets played.
Why? What do you think
Because
will happen?
I think I just trophy day. The league's won. You've got a cup final next weekend. Do you risk Carter Vickers? Do you risk the likes of Maeda? Especially we know how critical Maeda is in the derbies. I don't know. I think there's question marks.
Fair. No, fair enough. I thought it'd be kind of the opposite, goes full strength
Yeah, I
and
know he said that, but I just feel as though if Celtic winning well and St Mirren start to get frustrated because they're 3-0 down and I don't know, someone goes for Dyson Maeda, goes for Carter Vickers. I mean, maybe that's just the warrior in me that says you don't want to get these guys injured ahead of a massive cup final. But yeah, certainly if I think when you've got guys like Luis Palma, Tomoki Iwata, Paulo Bernardo in the squad, Nicholas Kuhn, I'd certainly utilise it and give those guys a game. But keep the likes of Matt O'Reilly in the team, Joe Hart, obviously, Liam Scales, Greg Taylor. Probably, I think whoever starts up front will be an interesting debate because obviously he just scored, and then you've got the derby next week. Do you start Kyogo in the derby after he's come in from the cold, not starting the last 2 games? So that'll be an interesting one. But I think it'll be interesting to see what the team is tomorrow.
yeah, I think the striker is probably the only question mark I would have thought there would be coming into this game. I definitely see the merit in giving like Iwata like his kind of moment in the sun because he's
Yeah,
been rather important in,
yeah,
in parts of the season. Palma, for all the criticism I can levy at him, he has hit the back of the net, so like he has contributed to
hmm
firmly to the success we've had this year. It's undeniable, despite how much I hate watching him dance and how I see him do these dances, right? And I'm like, why don't you do that when you're on the ball? Like, why
yeah.
can't you move that
Because he
quickly?
can,
I,
because he
I,
can.
I,
Well, he's effective, scores the goals, gets assists, but I watch Luis Palma with my eyes, and the eyes don't match up with what the numbers tell you.
yeah. So I don't know about, and I also heard a suggestion that Yang might get a start in this game because Rogers said something like, "Oh, Yang had an injury, he hurt his foot or something, but now
Yeah,
he's fine." And someone took that suggestion as meaning that he'll
no.
come back in. But I
Yeah,
think he's down the pecking order behind Kuhn
yeah,
certainly now.
yeah, yeah. He's well, Kuhn and Forrest are in front of him in the right wing spot, and even in the left wing, Maeda and Palmer are probably ahead of him. He's going to be one next season. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Yang because does he go out on loan? Does he stay in the squad and continually develop. He's still only 21, and he has shown glimpses this season. You look at Motherwell away; that was a real turning point. He came on and arguably changed the game along with Adam Ida that day. So he has shown glimpses of it. But when you look at some of the key moments, Rabbi Matondo's goal at Ibrox
Yeah.
stood off his man. I look at St Johnstone away when Mattarelli scored that wonder goal. The first half, he was hooked for Mikey Johnston. That says a lot. So there has been moments for Yang this season where he's been good, but overall he still needs a lot of development, and I don't see him. He might come off the bench tomorrow, but I don't see him starting the game.
And I think probably a lovely suggestion I've heard, and maybe some other fans will echo this, but do we see Joe Hart get subbed off in this game?
Nah, I don't think you do. You might see him take a penalty if Celtic get one.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. Hopefully, I would love that. Don't think it would happen. Maybe he does. Maybe he gets his standing ovation in the 90th minute and he starts crying like Tom Rogic and Near Beaton did a couple of years ago. It's going to be emotional for Joe last time at Parkhead in front of the 60,000 Celtic fans. It's going to be emotional for him. I'll probably have a tear in my eye as well. But I don't know, maybe that's something that could happen. Give him his moment. But I'm sure when Brendan gets the mic, I think Joe might get the mic as well at full time tomorrow.
Yeah. I've also heard a suggestion that maybe McGregor lets Hart lift the trophy as well.
Yeah, maybe that's a really good shout actually. Maybe they both one hand each. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's going to be, I know you're saying it's a meaningless game and it is on the league table because we're coasting, but I do think these trophy day games, it's very important for the fans, for everything.
Yeah.
And especially as like a precursor again to the cup final, which I feel that we're all a little bit overlooking a little bit just for the title celebrations and that,
Yeah.
because I don't want to bring any negativity to the show because, highly optimistic is the way I like to roll. But imagine Rangers did win the cup. They'd end up with a double, like.
Yeah, but
it- it-
Celtic have won the league. The league is what matters. If Rangers win the Scottish Cup, they've won a double, it's 2 cups. They're still the lesser force, Celtic are the dominant force. It's a cup for them. Fair enough. If Celtic lose the cup final next Saturday, I don't think I'll be too upset. As much as you want to
I
ride
will
off
be.
into the sunset, shooting arrows as you go at the end of the season. I think if Celtic lost the league, the cup final would be massive. But obviously that's not happened. The league's a priority. The players won't have that mindset. Players will want to 100% win that game and really stamp their authority and show that they are better than this Rangers team. And listen, that cup final's massive for Felix Clement.
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at, he's had, 3 derbies already, failed to win any. And then if he loses that, he's looking at having to come to Parkhead at the beginning of next season as Rangers manager, having not beat Celtic in 4 attempts. So it's really a sticky situation if Rangers lose that cup final. But
It's like
Celtic
Graham
have got,
Murray vibes, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It'll be who Alec Ray coming in as the assistant when he coming in as the interim when he goes. But yeah, trophy day will be really good, and then after that, the players will have a really solid week to prepare for the cup final.
Yeah. And I do expect us to win the cup final, but I'm just saying, like, it does feel like we're kind of all a wee bit like
Mm.
overlooking it, not maybe taking it for
Just,
granted or
I,
whatever, but like
I think
that's
just
still to be
riding.
done.
I think just riding the wave of winning the league at the minute, and then when next Monday morning comes, Derby week, full focus on the cup final.
Yeah, big time. We normally like to end the show with a bit of a score prediction.
Yeah.
I think picking the team, we've kind of spoke about any curveballs that could happen. Josh has come up with some lovely suggestions that I didn't have in my mind, certainly. You said the last 2 trophy days have been like at 6-0ers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think this weekend is a 5-0. I think we
5.
both got it again.
I'm gonna go with 4-1 Celtic tomorrow.
One, you think Joe Hart's not getting a clean sheet?
When he gets subbed off for Scott Bain, St Mirren will score.
Love it.
Nah,
You're going to the game, Josh, aren't you?
yeah, I'll be there. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll be there as well. We had some ticket giveaway winners. I mentioned it earlier on the show last night. So congratulations again to all those people. If you are going to the game yourself, of course, travel safe. It should be sunny as well. And then it's going to be the Merchant City takeover, I think, again, from last year. I don't see that not happening this year. So it's set to be an absolute smasher of a weekend from start to finish. Hopefully the guys on the pitch go and get the goals and get the result for us as well. And then, yeah, send us off into the sunset, firing arrows. I love that. With a couple of jars in our hands as well, going for it. So
Bag of
yeah,
cans.
bags of cans. That's it, man.
Yeah.
But yeah. Enjoy the game, everyone. Have a great weekend. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.